What's up, guys? I was thinking about some of the past relationships I've had, and I wanted to elaborate a little bit on what I like to call the relationship game. Now, I have no doubts that the majority of us MGTOW have had some sort of relationship experience in the past. So I feel this should resonate with a lot of you listening, and of course, if there's something you think I'm missing, promptly just let me know. Now, the way I see it, relationships degrade in stages, and for every stage toward pure degradation, the relationship dynamic shifts more and more in the favor of the female, and at a certain point, a trap is triggered on the man, which locks him psychologically, and in some cases physically, in the relationship. And of course, I'll explain more as I continue. I also break each stage down into sub-stages, and once a majority of the sub-stages have been fulfilled, I feel it's appropriate to move on to the next stage of degradation. Now, when it comes to relationships in my personal life, I've taken to the notion of 3 to 6 months tops, which is generally when the third stage of degradation begins, and that's the point where, of course, I call it quits. Now, the first stage of degradation I like to call, and I'm sure you've heard this before, becoming official, the becoming official stage. Might have been named something different, but this is what I'm calling it. Now, just a little side note, I don't really like the term girlfriend. And not for reasons that you may think. When a guy says, that's my girlfriend, that's my girlfriend, mine, that's my girlfriend, he's generally trying to portray to you that that's mine. Her over there, that's mine. Although in reality, we all know it's the other way around. She owns his ass. We all know guys in relationships generally simp to a disturbing degree to their girlfriends. So I guess to me, saying girlfriend kind of equates to saying massa, like a slave, Like, oh, that's my massa over there. Oh, that's my massa over there, because she controls him. So I generally stray away from that term. I'd prefer to say something like, oh, I'm seeing so-and-so. And if I have to, for some reason, I'll abbreviate it as, oh, that's my girl. I won't, go all the way through and say, oh, that's my girlfriend. Anyway, before this relationship became official, in my opinion, everything was totally fine. I mean, being friends with benefits is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't have to change that. In my opinion, when you start the official stage of a relationship, it somewhat ruins the friendship. As soon as you become official, you're accepting all these extra responsibilities that come along with that, like dates, drinks, and generally more of your time. To me, the best times were hanging out, and that's assuming she has some conversation skills, joking around, and, occasionally sleeping together. And arguments are on a real low. I mean, you ever try to argue with one of your friends? Generally, they just tell you to fuck off. So arguments are definitely on a low. And, also, I generally don't have a problem being in a relationship, but as soon as we become official, I assume that our days have been numbered from that point forward. Now, stage 2, I like to call the argumentative stage. This is generally where the arguments begin to start piling up on top of each other. In the past, generally about 2 months in is when the arguments just began to flow. For no reason at all, for dumb stuff, some stuff that made sense, something that has nothing to do with us. It wouldn't matter. The arguments just start to come on in. Now, this is when the guy becomes stump broke, if you will. This is when he begins to submit more and more to her arguments and just agrees with her to stop her from yelling at him, right? I mean, imagine being in a relationship with someone where they're nonstop yelling and arguing and complaining about things that generally don't matter. This is where those guys get those comments like, it's best to just let her think she's right. I cannot believe how many times I've heard that. Now, there's a flip side to this as well. By the guy continuing to let her have her way, let her have her way, let her have her way, he's breeding more and more narcissism in her. So she feels she can get away with more, and she can because she keeps pushing it. She becomes more and more comfortable arguing and breaking down this man's spirit, while simultaneously it degrades his willpower to just simply say no or disregard her argument. So in a way, at this point, she's gaining more and more power while he's losing and losing more. Also, this is where the psychological manipulation begins, and it also continues throughout the rest of the stages. And now we move on to stage 3, the denial stage. Now in the denial stage, the response no becomes commonplace when asking her for something or to do something or generally anything. And actually, as I talk about it right now, I've somewhat noticed that the no's become more hostile. So, for example, it goes from just excuses like my head hurts or I don't feel like it, I don't know, whatever, some excuse, to a flat out no, don't ask me again. Now that I think about it, I noticed that little switch as well. So I guess we can throw that in. This is also when she denies you sex for extremely unrealistic reasons. Like, I don't know, Janet from work made me upset, so I'm not in the mood. Or I remember one time, my ex-girl, she said, I don't want to say anyone's name, so I'll make up a name. She said, Ashley got a bad grade on her bio test, so I'm not feeling it. And, of course at the time, I was a simp, so I was like, okay, all right, sorry. But now that I look back on it, it's what the fuck? Man, that was an interesting time, man. Now, to add on to her turning you down for things, no matter what it is, this is generally where she begins to ask for more for herself. So this is when you need to give her more drinks, buy her more clothes, more dinners, and really anything under the sun. She's going to see it, she's going to like it, she's going to look at you and assume you're going to buy it for her. Now, keep in mind, in the previous stage, you were castrated and now you can't say no. So what do? You open that wallet. So let's add this up. A combination of the narcissism built up in the previous stage and your newly lobotomized mindset all equal, well, one happy girl, but also a miserable guy. And just to put the icing on the cake, this is usually when you get isolated from your friends. And also when she becomes very adamant about you cutting contact with all other women. And now we have the 4th stage that I like to call the shaming stage. It's kind of funny. I actually know a guy in this situation at this very moment, and he's been there for a while. It's at this point where she'll openly talk ill about you. She will talk shit to your face, to your friends' faces, to her girlfriends, and generally anyone she feels worthy enough to know how terrible of a person you are. Whereas in the past it was more covert and behind closed doors, now she'll just air the dirty laundry out for anyone to see. I also noticed that this is the point when guys are so brainwashed that they try to justify their relationship to other guys. Maybe at this point they realize how stuck they are and how much time they've wasted, the friends they've lost, the hobbies they've given up. I really don't know, but maybe at this point they realize that they really messed up and now they're trying to make themselves feel better by telling other men, oh no, she's great, she's this, she's that. It's like, yeah, but she just said you're a piece of shit 5 seconds ago. Oh, well, she's crazy, she gets like that when she's drunk, just all these excuses, and they try to justify the situation they're in. And at this point, there is no free time. Free time is no more. You now have to focus on her wants, her needs. All right. If it doesn't benefit her, it's wrong. And if it only benefits her, that's fine, because that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Also, bear in mind at this point, she's his only friend. He's been isolated so severely that no one else knows him. No one talks to him. No one hangs out with him. She's all he's got. So at this point, she's hit the pinnacle of her psychological manipulation. And that's when she springs the trap, which is the 5th stage, in my opinion, which is the marriage demand. Now, I call this stage the marriage demand because if he hasn't pandered low enough to already ask for her hand in marriage, then she'll demand it at this point. usually through a false ultimatum like either marry me or it's over. Something along those lines. Usually as well, there'll be a lot of familial pressure on his end. His family telling him that he should marry her. Because generally family members tell the guy, you should marry her, she's a great girl. You know how that goes. She uses the psychological trap that she's been building the entire relationship to push this ultimatum. If you don't marry me, I'll leave. In other words, if you don't marry me, your only friend is going to be walking out of the door. And lastly, you remember the physical trap I was talking about? Well, that may come in the form of a large male family member of hers claiming something along the lines of, if you break her heart, I'll break you. And with all these pressures, guess what? She's got herself a new future ex-husband. Isn't that amazing? Well, guys, that's what I like to call the relationship game. So let me know what you guys think. Give me a like, comment, subscribe. Once again, definitely let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you guys soon.